Welcome to Building Better Businesses. I'm Kristen Dees, founder of Catalyst Consulting, an agency that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs start, grow, and level up their businesses. This podcast will bring you interviews with experts in all things business related. Have questions for a business attorney? We've got answers. How about your health insurance? Got you covered there too. New episodes coming your way every week. Find us on the podcasting platform of your choice. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting. My guest today is Sarah Truglio. She's from the WSBDC, which is an acronym for the Washington Small Business Development Center, right? That's the whole, perfect. And we met, I think you reached out to me on LinkedIn because you saw my episode with Mark Pond, I think, our the Spokane business librarian. Yeah. And so you reached out to me and we've been connected for a little while. And I've been wanting to have you on as a guest, so I think it'll be great, and I'm excited. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, and I forget, are you in Yakima or the Tri-Cities?
So I cover sort of all of central Washington. My office is located in Yakima, but I work with clients. I work with clients throughout the Washington state. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, located
very cool.
in central.
Nice. How's the weather right now? Is it hot for you guys too?
You know, it's kind of mild today, a little windy. So it's cooled down quite a bit. So I think probably high 80s today. So not too bad.
Oh, that's tolerable. Yeah. Not bad at all. But the closer it starts getting to 100, the more intolerable it gets, I think. I'm like, 90s is okay.
We get a lot of wind here, which sort of helps temper it a little bit. So.
That makes sense. And blow some dust around.
Yeah, kind of a sandblast. You know, it's like a facial.
That's good. You're like, man, your skin looks great. It's because I walk through sandpaper all day.
That's the trick.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you as a human being. Who's Sarah?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I am an old married lady. I've been married to the same fabulous person for 20 years. We have 2 teenage sons, age 15 and 18. And like I said, I live in central Washington. I enjoy lots of outdoor adventures, art, reading, and spending time with my family. Just, kind of hanging out, doing life.
Yeah, doing stuff. What kind of art do you like to do? Art or view art?
Both. I went to art school for college, which is not the best path for a career. So I enjoy all different mediums.
Oh, nice. Very fun. Yeah. It's one of the harder ones to actually make a significant living at, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good hobby.
Yeah. Some people can, but it's tough. What's a fun fact about you?
Sure. So my parents were fun-loving hippies, and I grew up in Northern California and spent the first 4 years of my life living on a hippie commune. So.
How fun.
Summers I lived in a teepee, and in the winters I lived in a old school bus that was converted to kind of like a house on wheels.
Nice. That's good. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun. I mean, probably weird in some ways, but also pretty fun. Unique experience, I'm sure.
It was very unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gave me lots of life skills for sure.
Yeah. That's funny. So tell us a little bit about what you do for the work side of things, how you provide support for business owners and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a certified business advisor with the Washington State Small Business Development Center. And we are a resource that helps people start, run, and grow their businesses by providing no-cost advising to small businesses and entrepreneurs. And so some areas that we can help are growing an existing business, marketing and research strategies, organizing your finances, which is super important, acquiring funding, intro to exporting, selling and buying businesses. So just to name a few, I'm one of 38 advisors throughout the state, and we're a very collaborative network. So you have access to all of our expertise.
Oh, very cool. I didn't realize there's only 38. How many, I guess, branches are there or offices
I believe
in
we are
Washington?
I believe we're at 27.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
What's your background outside of that? How did you end up at the WSBDC?
Well, like I mentioned, I went to art school, so I knew that was not going to be very lucrative. But really for I worked for the SBDC for about 4 years now, and then prior to that, I worked in economic development for 10 years. And I was the director of business development for a county, and I managed business incubators, co-working spaces, and provided business outreach and training to small businesses in the community. And so what I learned through that was what I really enjoyed about that job was working with the small businesses and getting to know their businesses in and out and trying to provide them with resources and tools to help them. And so when the opportunity came to start working for the SBDC, I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's a dream position where I get to do all of the things that I absolutely love. So it's
Very
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Because there's so many things where you don't know until you start trying stuff and you're like, oh, I really like this aspect because you'd never experienced it before. And then I think that happens a lot too with coaches. It's essentially what you are too. It's like someone's good at something and then they really enjoy the coaching aspect of it. And then they're like, well, I guess I'm a coach for this thing now. This is okie dokie. But you don't really know, it's not, a lot of people don't start out that way. So I think it's fun. It's all part of the journey. What's kind of your favorite thing to help entrepreneurs solve for?
I think probably where to start with anything, really. Most people sort of tend to overcomplicate things and you just really don't know what you don't know. And so I enjoy a good project, right? And so I like to help people figure out where to start and, how to move forward and, try to help them do some of the heavy lifting so that it makes it a little bit easier and enjoyable, the process enjoyable, right? It shouldn't all be hard. You shouldn't be coming up against a brick wall every single day. That's just not normal. There's better ways to do things. So that's what I enjoy most. I recently read something that 42% of entrepreneurs Google when they have questions or they don't know how to do something that pertains to their business. And I just really feel like that we can offer them a better resource than that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of resources I didn't know about until I had already started my business too, like the WSBDC or SBDC, depending on where you're at. Even the SBA has resources on their website, SCORE, there's so many places out there where you can get help and support, even like a business banker. Like if you find a good business banker, business librarian, there's people where you can go ask questions for free or very low cost. And because it's so intimidating. I was talking about this. I was actually doing a presentation on kind of like a business audit checklist. It was just like, here's my pillars, like how I kind of frame up, the business pieces of a business, and then some items to go through, if you want to check and see where you're at and maybe do a business plan. So a lot of people are really intimidated by that too, the business plan concept. But I was like, there's Google University. So a lot of people, and especially entrepreneurs, are very DIY types. And so, you Google things and there's if you Google how to start a business, there's 26 million articles That's probably a low estimate, honestly, right? It's like
Yeah.
there's all this information is out there and everyone has a slightly different twist to it. And so I think it feels really overwhelming too. Like you were saying, like people overcomplicate stuff and it's just like they don't know where to start, because that's something I kind of help with too sometimes. It's like, okay, here's what we're trying to accomplish. But yeah, it's overcomplicated. They overcomplicate and it feels really overwhelming. So they don't really like start with any of this stuff. So having a human is such a great, just be like, I can go talk to Sarah and she will help me sort myself out. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so overwhelming.
It is.
And like I've talked about this before too on here, so sorry if you guys are hearing this again, but depending on what your background and experience is, I happen to have business management and operations experience. Like that's really my whole thing. Like that's my specialty when it comes to consulting, but not everybody happens to have that experience. Like I've had fingers in all the pies from like 19 on. So I just happen to have some incidental knowledge that I can't even imagine if I had to try and learn all that stuff and also figure out how to run a business. It'd be like, it's so overwhelming. It's hard now.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Too much. Keep it very simple.
Yeah. No, I like that. You shouldn't be running into a brick wall every single day. Because it's not fun. Like, I mean, it's supposed to be hard, but it's also supposed to be really fun. Like, I feel like being an entrepreneur and running your own business is supposed to mostly be fun and freedom and learning a lot about yourself as a person as you go. You're like, oh,
yeah,
I'm not as good at that.
Right. That's not my skill set. So
yep.
Yeah.
I was just talking to someone yesterday about that, and she's like, I thought I was really organized, and it turns out I am not at all organized. And I was like, it's funny because I talk about that a lot with people. It's like knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm really organized or I'm detail oriented. And I'm like, there are a million different ways that actually manifests and different like reasons, like how your brain works and all that stuff. So I'm like digging into I'm like, you probably are organized in certain areas, but like creating organization is a different skill than being organized. And she's like, yeah, yep.
Yeah, we like to run through like a SWOT analysis with people, like for pre-ventures, essentially, that really, it kind of goes through and it lists, their strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats and, what would best align with, their skill set. And, sometimes they think, oh, I want to be, whatever. And then they do their analysis and they realize, oh, yeah, I'm really not cut out for that. And I don't really think I would enjoy that. So let's look at, some of the things that I do have and where I can apply them and where they would be best used, so in many ways we're also career counselors.
Yeah.
That
makes sense. I was actually thinking like occupational therapy when you're like, or you do the tests in school to be like, what career would I be good at? And it's like, a cop,
the Myers-Briggs.
Or that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because there's just all the things, like you said, like someone's like, oh, I want to make custom signs or whatever. And then they don't realize that there's all these other things that go into that, like the details and keeping track of inventory and sourcing your supplies. And sometimes that stuff is brutal. Like it's not my jam. So yeah, no, it's cool. I like that. Do you guys do any kind of assessments or anything like that with people, like the Myers-Briggs or DISC or anything?
I have a pretty basic one that goes through. And like I said, we do a SWOT analysis and we talk about things that they like doing and things that they don't like doing and, just kind of where they see themselves in the next 5 to 10 years, why they want to start a business. Do they realize that these are all the things that are going to be involved with, you're going to be working more than, 50 hours a week, probably. You're not going to be making a lot of money in the first few years. These are things to think about that, really the why, it kind of comes back to why do you want to do this? It doesn't necessarily matter what your concept or product or service is, but, do you have the type of personality that can really be an entrepreneur. So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of run them through that. And then if they don't get scared and they're still excited, then, then we help them, with their business plan and, figuring all the licensing and permitting and all of that stuff.
No, that's cool.
It's really not for everybody. And so
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to decide what's going to work for you.
Yeah. And if there's ways too, because I think sometimes just having the right like people in place to help you could solve for some of those things too, where it's like, oh, I'm not a details person. I don't like this stuff. I'm not great at the execution. I like the big picture, but I just need to have somebody on board that can help me with that stuff. So like considering some of those things too, where it's like, hey, you're either going to have to do this for a while or find a way to hire somebody to build you up kind of where you're not strong,
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. What are some of the most common avoidable mistakes you see new business owners make, or even old business owners?
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. There's so many things. I think number one is really, not really having a plan, right? Not doing enough research about your product or service or even the industry, the trends. Oftentimes what happens is people are just too late to market with their idea or their concept. Or there's just no need for it, right? Due to their lack of research. And so we really want them to kind of work through the plan, which is their, who, what, where, when of, what the business is going to be, figuring out who their target market is. And, if it's a product that's, viable or not ahead of time. And so, obviously that's a service that we help them work through. But I see that's the number one issue that I see. I think number two would be kind of underestimating the cost of starting and running a business and not really understanding their numbers or their financials. That's a really big one as well. People get into a lot of trouble with that. We sort of found that out. The pandemic really exposed that in a lot of businesses. And it was really sad to see that people weren't taking better care of that aspect of their business. I think also not hiring the right people, not having the right team, not working with the right contractors or special service providers really can make your business not run as well. And not asking for help. If you're doing alone, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
It's just a basic concept. The other thing that I see is people don't charge enough for their products and services. They end up not covering their operating costs, not being able to pay their taxes, things like that. It's one of those things, whereas if you have a plan and you work out the business on paper first, you can see where the holes are and where the gaps are and where you're going to need to shore things up or change or pivot or, make your business model a little more, viable financially. So rather than waste your time and money and energy on something that isn't necessarily going to work, figure it out first and then work through, the pitfalls.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like there's always the balance of having no plan and then having too much of a plan. Cause I've talked to a few people too. I'm sure you run into this as well, the like analysis paralysis stuff. And they spend so much time because they're so afraid of failing or making mistakes or, however you want to define that. But you do have to have a plan and a strategy 100% and then do something. And then you will figure some stuff out and some things will pop up because you just won't know until you start. There's no way to know. It's impossible to have the perfect plan. No matter how hard we try.
Yeah, there's no such thing. It's an overall concept, right? It's just a concept.
Here's the target.
Exactly. And then beta test it in a small, simple way so that, you can see what works and what doesn't. And you get the feedback from the beta testers, right? Or from the clients or, keep it really small and then scale up, to where it works. And we find that works the best. but everybody has a different everyone has a different mode of operation and
Yeah.
can sometimes miraculously it'll work without a plan, but
Yeah.
that's not always the case. So
No,
sometimes
yeah.
people get lucky.
Yeah, people do it every day, or they like accidentally have a business, because this has happened to my friend. She makes custom wood signs, and she just started it as a hobby because it was fun. She really liked it. She figured out how to do stencils and stuff and made some really cute stuff. And then people started asking her to make custom stuff. And she was like, oh, okay. And then it like continued to grow and expand. And she started teaching classes and like, and she was like, hey dude, I think I need your help because I think I have like a real business now. Like I don't really know if I'm doing it right. I don't think I am. I was like, yeah, dude. So, that she was just like, hey, I'm doing a thing and I like it and people enjoy it. It was completely by accident, essentially. And now she has the ability, she'll be able to go full-time in her side business at some point, but she had to come back and be like, okay, hold on. I think I need to have like a separate bank account. Like, I was like, oh God. So, but yeah, and then but the shift in that is that once she was like, okay, I need to have a plan. I need to understand how much this stuff costs me. I was like, how much time does it make you or take you to make a sign? She was like, a while. Because she had created some efficiencies too, where it's like, if I do these chunks, she would do like multiple pieces of signs, multiple signs at the same time, kind of like an assembly line concept, right? But then she was like, I have no idea how long it takes me to make just one. So working through some of that stuff helped her with her pricing strategy. She was able to raise her prices and not feel gross about it either, because it was like, oh, it takes a lot of time to make this insanely detailed custom sign. So, but anyway, yeah. So that, and the other thing I was thinking about when you were talking about the stuff is not hiring the right people. That's another thing too, that I find that if you don't have leadership experience or like interviewing, like how to do one, I mean, there's like the whole like legalities of human resources. Like that's there's like that piece too. That's a whole nother beast. But I think it's really hard sometimes for people to know how to find people, know when they have good candidates, and then interview people in the right way to like find the right like skill set, basically. So it's like, if I'm hiring someone for me, I know that they have to be detail oriented and organized and self-starter, etc. Because I need that balance. I'm like, I need someone that cares about, they're going to do the stuff for me. But a lot of people aren't there yet. So how do you guys kind of help with that piece of it? Do you do workshops, or do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah, so we work with resource partners. So like Society of Human Resource Management,
okay.
SHRM, and then, Employment Security, L&I, WorkSource. So we work with all of those and some independent consultants as well. And they provide a myriad of resources and tools and such. First of all, you have to figure out what you need. If your business can afford to hire someone. And then also, you have to figure out your skill set as well. As I mentioned before, what are you good at? What do you not like doing? What's immediate, right? And just kind of work through that. So hiring somebody may not necessarily mean a full-time employee. It may be like a virtual assistant. It may be a bookkeeper. It may be someone that can alleviate some of the day-to-day stress for you so that you can be working on your business and not in your business, right? So that you can, accelerate some growth. And really figuring out what you need, not just a warm body, right? That's just going to be a wet noodle and not do anything, to help your business grow. But you have to think about it in terms of this, employees are costing you more than what you're just paying them. So, again, comes back to financials. What can you afford? That usually dictates what type of person you can hire, and really what that role and that need is going to be. And so kind of working through job description and financials, and we just try to help them, figure out what's going to work the best for their business, and then go through some different agencies and organizations that can help them hire the right person.
That makes sense. Because I was say, I mean, if you don't do that too, then at least maybe partner with a friend or a mentor or someone that has that kind of leadership experience that can do some interviews and stuff with you or help you like kind of walk through. Because this is the thing too, like you were saying, you don't have to do it alone and you don't always have to pay somebody. Like make friends with other business owners, join networks, join organizations where you can build those relationships and connections so that when you reach out for something, like you can be like, hey, I've never interviewed people before.
Right,
can someone help me? Like, and people will most likely help, like there's lots of other resources out there besides hiring someone to, or, trying to get someone to help you.
Yeah, it takes a village, right? And so,
Yeah.
the more people that you have in your community and your village of entrepreneurs, the easier things get, and you learn things from them, and you can make that a best practice for your business.
Yeah. Yeah, because so many people have learned things the hard way or just learned because they had to go through an experience where they had a crazy employee or, someone that just, it's like, how do I manage this person? Like lots of people have already had to figure this out the hard way usually. So they'll share.
It's tough. If you're not from the type of background that you and I have had with, project management and just managing a team, it's not easy. So I think there's lots of different resources that are available and books and, podcasts and what have you that you can kind of glean information from, but really just, I think, working with that person and making sure that they're the ideal fit and not just hiring because you feel like you have to hire someone either. Really holding out for the right person, I think, it makes a difference for sure.
Yeah.
What's a lot of time with that person.
Tell me a little bit more about the society, the human resources. I've seen that and I've looked at their website. I've kind of looked into it because I've been curious about, what that would look like, in use, I guess. So how do they kind of help people?
Yeah, they have lots of tools, webinars, events. It's essentially an organization of human resources management professionals. And they have put together all of their skill set and things that they've learned, and really, just try to give back and provide that to the business community. So usually each area has a chapter, or region has a chapter.
Okay.
And you can go to their events. They have networking events. They have webinars, some free, some paid. They do like you to have a membership for some of the things, but a lot of the things that you can get templates for employee handbooks and things like that off of their website. They give you how to hire an employee, different checklists and things like that, interview tips, things of that nature. I think they have a job board as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I couldn't really tell. I was looking to see if they had like templates and stuff like that, even for like job offers or that kind of stuff too. So that would be super helpful for people because there's just, there's you can Google it. You can Google a job offer, but it's like, is that what you want to use? Or you could get a business attorney too. I mean, there's like many other options for doing things, but you should have a job offer letter and you should have, like you said, employee handbook and there's some sort of like written agreement of like what it's supposed to look like. So, so when it comes to the financing side of things too, so preparing for financing, grants, loans, otherwise, what do people need to be aware of? Entrepreneurs need to be aware of?
Oh, so there's a lot for this one as well.
Yeah.
I have a business loan application checklist that I like to work. I like to work through with clients so that they, they understand what taking on debt for their business means, and helping them be as prepared as possible with their loan paperwork and package. The more complete the application is, the better chances, for getting approved of a loan are. Getting a commercial loan, it can be a long, complicated, hard process. And it's not always the best solution for growth or for starting a business. So we just kind of work through that to make sure that this is what the best thing is. Your lender, depending on what type of lender you go through for a loan, they are going to ask you all kinds of questions. So you need to be prepared. So we work through that. Forms are going to kind of vary depending on what lending institution you go through, but the basic information is going to be the same. So you just need to be prepared when you go in to talk to them. Essentially, why are you applying for the loan? What amount you're borrowing? You need to be very firm on that, and what the proceeds are going to be used for. What kind of assets need to be purchased? Who your suppliers are going to be? What other business and personal debts do you have? Who's your team, right? Who's your management team? Who's in your business? Who's in your company? They want to know, usually they want you to have a resume. They want to see resumes for everyone. And then what kind of cash or collateral are you going to be able to bring to the project? So usually when you borrow money, you need to have some kind of a down payment or contribution to the project. So in addition to that, most lenders are going to want to see a basic business plan, of 8 to 10 pages, which is kind of a narrative of your financials and the who, what, where of your business, as well as cash flow projections, which, your revenue and expenses, and it needs to include the loan payment for 24 months. So it can show that your business can cash flow a loan payment. Business financials, if you have them. If you're a startup, we just go with the projection. So if you're already in business, P&L, balance sheet, things like that, credit report, tax returns, again, collateral. They'd like to see that you have some kind of collateral. Either equipment or real estate are the most common ones. And it's a pretty complex process for sure.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. It's one of those things I think seems super intimidating too, but as long as you're doing your legwork.
It can be. It really just depends on, obviously if you come and see an advisor first, be it us or your financial advisor or, a CPA can also help you with getting your paperwork together and such. The more you're prepared and the more your numbers and, the type of business it is in the industry, the better off the results usually are. I will say, probably 85% of startup businesses are self-funded. They're not, most banks don't want to take the risk.
Oh, okay. No, that's good to know.
But there's some alternative lenders as well that we work with quite a bit that actually, will help. But you have to be ready, willing, and able. You can't, not have any assets at all and expect that you're going to get, a $150,000 loan or, something like that. So we just try to work with you. We try to work with you to, figure out if that's the best route and if it's viable or not.
Mm-hmm. No, that totally makes sense. I guess, and for some reason, like I always felt like more people got loans, that I was doing it the hard way. I'm like, I'm just gonna invent my own business, and that's what I'm gonna do now. But no, I guess that makes sense.
It depends on the situation. It depends on, what your assets are. It depends on what type of business it is. If you're purchasing a business that's already in operation, if you're just starting from scratch, if the bank sees it as a good risk or not. It also depends on the lender. A lot of banks are not necessarily small business friendly. And so they don't want to leverage that type of assistance. And we saw that a lot with the pandemic and, the PPP loans and things of that nature. So I think, that's another part of hiring the right people is you also have to have the right the right team put together. So your business banker, your accountant, your bookkeeper, your lawyer, you really need to make sure that you're working with people that want to work with you and support you as a small business. And your bank and your lender is very important.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really important relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, don't just go to, like Wells Fargo or BOA or whoever, like just because they
No,
have.
I'm not saying that. I think, that you can find business lenders in those larger banks that are willing to work with you. And it depends on what kind of relationship you have with them and what you're bringing to the table as well.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Well, and I was more saying like, don't just go there because that's where your bank account is. Like,
Oh, right.
do a little bit of research, and
Do
because
some
I mean,
research. Yep.
yeah, I mean, that's what I did. I was just like, oh, I have a bank account here and I need to have a business account set up because I started getting paid. I was like,
Right.
crap. I need to have, so it was just easier for me to set something up, but I haven't, it's not like I have a good relationship with, I don't even know the name of the guy that set my stuff up, So at some point down the road, I'll do some more research and be like, hey, who's a good small business banker in the area? And then, explore some other options. But
that would be good to have on your podcast. That'd be a really good.
Yeah, I've been trying to get. Who was I tracking? Oh, Alan Stanford.
Yep.
Yeah, I tried to get him originally, but he's like, I'm just too busy, and honestly, like podcasts aren't really my favorite thing. I was like, oh, cool. But he's really smart, and I was like, oh, he was the first person that I was like, I need to have a podcast because like. He knows so much stuff because he was in the banking industry for 35 years. And so that's really his specialty. And by the way, guys, like you have resources like that available to you. But yeah, I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool to find somebody in that kind, in the financial institution side of things to interview about like the financial side of it and like loans and all that kind of stuff. So, because people get it, but what about grants? Like, how do you find grants? Like, where do you go to be like, I can apply for grants?
So grants are sort of like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, it's free money. So,
and there aren't a lot of them out there, and they're highly competitive and not necessarily sustainable. So,
okay.
Your business resource librarian will probably have some at your local library. Will be able to give you some resources and some information via some data mining that they've probably already done on the subject. Another good one is to set a Google alert for grants for whatever type of industry you're in, and see if you find anything. The grants that we just had from the CARES Act and such were mostly for businesses that were already in business that just needed some assistance kind of shoring them up to tide them over. They weren't necessarily for businesses starting out for operating expenses and such. So startup grants are few and far between, but every once in a while you'll see a business plan competition or some other community organization that might be offering small grants. So Google Alerts, I think, is probably the best place to start.
Oh, okay. No, that's super helpful. I wouldn't have even thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Google Alerts. What about when it comes to like being certified as like a women-owned or minority-owned business? Like, do you guys help with that piece of it, or is that through someone else?
Well, it's through third-party organizations, but we can help you, filling out the paperwork and such like that. It's usually more geared towards businesses that want to get government contracts. So working with government entities, they have a set aside where they have to give a certain percentage of contracts to women and minority-owned businesses, and one of the caveats is that they need to be certified. Some of it can be self-certified for state, but for federal, you need to be certified through a reputable organization, a third-party organization. And the paperwork is a little intense, so we can definitely help you with the process. They usually want to see that you're in business for a few years and you have some financials, and tax returns. So it's a pretty complicated, lengthy application process.
Okay. No, that's super good to know, because I was looking into that the other day and I was like, do I need to be certified for this? So like, I didn't know if it made a difference when it comes to just like getting a general like business loan. Like if I was going to go apply for like a loan or something, if being certified would make a difference. But that makes sense that it's more about basically proving, like it's a gateway essentially for being like,
Yep.
Kind of like nonprofits have to prove certain things every year, or when they apply, it's like, here's the proof. That's why the application process is kind of painful, or the turning in the stuff, because you have to actually be able to prove that you're not just getting these benefits, it's like, it's my husband's business, but I'm 51% owner, blah, blah, blah,
Right. Yeah. I haven't seen it necessarily impact whether someone gets a loan or not.
Okay.
But I have seen that if you are working with certain type of government agencies, that it is beneficial to securing those contracts. So.
Mm-hmm. No,
but it's not for every type of business. And like I said, it's a lengthy process. So you have to decide if it's something that you're really willing to put the time and energy into, if it makes that much of a difference for you or not, or is your time and energy better spent, networking or marketing or, something like that to engage that.
No, it's super good to know. That was just a random question that I was like,
yeah,
I need to ask this. See, this is why the Sarahs of the world exist. Is like, I know a lot of things, and I know a little about a lot, but I still don't know everything at all when it comes to running a business. So, I
don't think nobody does.
No. Yeah, that's good. That does always make me feel better. I'm like, it's fine. You don't have to know all the stuff, Kristen. It's okay. Other people can answer questions. Which is actually really one of my favorite things, is the whole, I've always had this approach to like any job, especially when I've taken a new team or something like that. They're like, what do you know about what we do? It's like, I don't have to know all the answers, but I will find the answers for you. Like if you don't know something, like ask me and I'll go find whoever the person is that has the answer to the question or the answer to the problem that we're trying to solve. So that's how I learn as much as I do learn, is because I'll go find, like, I know Sarah knows some stuff. I'm going to go ask her. And I learn a little bit more every time. So
yeah, exactly. That's the whole point.
Yeah. What are the top 3 tips you would share with business owners when it comes to running their businesses, or just pieces of advice that you feel like are valuable for people?
I think, again, work on your business, not in your business. Keep things simple and grow to scale. I think that's really important. Again, hire out for things that you either don't know how to do, you're not good at, bookkeeping, social media, things like that, things that are going to help you really work on your role in getting your product to market and getting more customers. That's most important. And I think, finding a mentor, networking with other entrepreneurs, that is super important. And, it's kind of been the overall theme of what you and I have been talking about today is, don't go it alone, ask lots of questions, learn something new. There's just so many resources and so many people out there that are willing to help you,
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think a lot of people too, a lot of us will do trade, or at least consider trade options. So like, for example, I'm doing consulting for a photographer, and she was like, hey, she's new to the area. She reached out. She's like, hey, is there anybody that would be a mentor or something? Like, I really need some help. I need some accountability, and I need just someone to help me with the stuff that I'm not good at. I don't know what I'm doing in certain areas, and I'm just really, I just want somebody to help. And I was like, hey, would you consider trade? Because photography is very expensive and you're also very good at it. And so she was like, yeah, because in that case too, especially when you're going service for service, like she's not having to like buy stuff to trade for it. It's all just like service, but you may be able to find someone that's willing to trade you in some way, shape or form, even if it's for credit down the road or something like that, where Because I know for some people, like for me, like I would have a hard time taking free help from someone in some aspects, where like having that, it like makes you feel a little bit better about the whole arrangement too. Like, hey, you're still giving some value in some way, shape, or form. So that's always an option too, I think, for that when you need someone in a more like intensive situation too. I think, consultant or a coach, something like that. So
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask.
yeah, the worst thing is a no,
Exactly. And, then that just means there's someone else out there that
Yeah.
is willing to help you, or, those weren't the best fit. And I've seen great creative partnerships and relationships grow from those types of arrangements as well.
Mm-hmm.
You never know further on down the road what that can lead you to. And then they're also a referral source because they worked with you firsthand. And then, so it's usually a win-win situation, and you make a new friend. They learn something, you learn something. You each have something, that you can proudly show on your, website, social media, what have you. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, I agree. Find a mentor. I think that's the one thing that every single guest has said so far is find a mentor, find a coach, someone to help you make connections with people. Like you said, don't do it alone. It's so much worse, and it's so much less fun. Like like you don't have people to celebrate the wins, because like your friends and family, unless they're business owners, they don't understand in the same way. It's like if you're like, dude, I just got a new client and the contract was so much money, and they're like, cool, but like other entrepreneurs are like, yeah, like this is amazing. It's a whole different game, I think. So I love my business peeps. So do you feel like, this is a mostly rhetorical question, but do you feel like it's ever too late to get help from an entrepreneurship ally like you?
So the answer is it depends on the situation. Right. So what I often hear is people come in and they say, I need a loan, or I need help with marketing because I'm not making enough money. And then you kind of dig a little bit further and you realize that the issue is not what they thought it was at all. It's, usually just requires a small tweak, or raising prices, or trimming the fat, what have you. But sometimes it's a little more complicated of a situation, and the business owner isn't really willing to, make the changes that they need to stay in business. And that's hard. And so, they're kind of on a sinking ship. They're losing money and they don't know. They panic and they don't know what to do, and they let it go so far that there's really kind of no return. A bank won't lend them money because of how bad their financials are. They owe lots of creditors money, things like that. So it's really hard. They need to be, ready, willing, and able to make the changes to save their business, or even sometimes close their business. We've had a few of those as well, and that's not fun, but sometimes it's the best. You have to make the best decision that you can, based on, what your needs are, right? So sometimes people take on the life of their businesses, and they don't necessarily think about the repercussions that's going to have on their personal lives. So
that makes sense. Well, and I mean, I know that happens. It's happened to me in the past too, just like in a personal situation where it was like things started getting really bad. I bought a house in Bend, Oregon in 2006 that I could not even remotely afford. It just blows my. I was like, God, being 21 was so glorious. Like,
I thought it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then. Yep. So and then I got approved for a brand new car, brand new Mustang. Like, oh man, I was living the dream for about 6 months. And I was like, oh crap. Yeah. Oh, I have to pay for this. How am I going to, math doesn't make sense. Yeah, it was wild. So I've totally been in that situation before where it's like, oh, this is scary. And you're just like, what? Just circling the drain. And you're like, maybe it'll just magically work out if I ignore it. I'm a recovering one of those. Like I still do it sometimes. I'm like, if I just don't deal with it, it'll be fine. So I can see too, especially, and some of it I think is it's hard to admit that that's happening. Like when it's something that you really believe in or you really want. So it could be really scary to be in that situation. And then you're like, now can I get help? Ooh, that would be me. So
yeah, people have to stop looking. They have to stop looking at failure as a bad thing.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a growth experience. It's a growth tool, and it's not always a bad thing. But it's so tied up in ego for a lot of people that they can't separate that, and they can't
Hmm.
separate themselves from the business. And so that's when it actually is too late usually. So
Hmm. Yeah. No, I totally get that. Like I said, I've been there and I still struggle with that sometimes. I'm like, ugh, I just want to be
every
like a flobbity billionaire. Well, and there's also the
yeah.
culture too of the like overnight success, made up hoax, whatever. Like that's not real. There's so much else that goes into it. And
Define success, define your
yeah.
own success. So that's one of the things we work in the pre-venture entrepreneur. Is entrepreneurship's ready for you, or are you right for that pathway, is that you really have to take that into consideration. What is your definition of success? Is it to
Hmm.
make $1 million? Is it just to make enough to pay the lifestyle that you have? Is it just to be happy? Is it just to travel? What is your define your success, right? It's different for everybody. And so if it's one thing we've learned over the last 5 to 10 years is that there's not just one business model anymore. There's not just one way to have a business. And that's the
Hmm.
cool thing about, how everything is sort of changed, right? That you can just do so many different things and have different levels of success. And so, don't be married to just the one idea of it, right?
Hmm. Yeah. No, I like that. What other helpful resources? Well, we've kind of talked about some, but can you think of anything else that we might have missed for helpful resources for
Um,
people?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff out there. There's a ton of podcasts, like yours, Adam Grant, 21 Hats, there's a ton of stuff. There's TED Talks on any subject in any industry, mentors, business coaches, networking groups. As I mentioned before, SHRM, SBA, SCORE, SNAP. Read articles, glean as much
Hmm.
information as you can. I don't necessarily recommend the 400-page books anymore. I don't think people have time, and I think it's just, I quite frankly think it's a waste of time. I think read the excerpts, right?
Yeah, I'm a
Read the
bullet point
articles,
person.
the cliff notes,
I don't
read the cliff
enjoy.
notes.
Yeah, yeah. People are like, "Hey, I read this really cool book," and I was like, "Ooh, if it's for like personal development, like I am not gonna be able to do. I read for fun only. Like I love to
Me
read.
too.
I read
Me
every
too.
day, but I'm like, oh, I
I never
can't
read
stand it.
for
Yeah,
work.
and it's not that they're not good. Like there's the ones that I've made myself do. Like I've had some really good books. Like No Ego by Cy Wakeman was really good, but it still was rough to get through. I'm like, what is the
Yeah.
deal? Like, but it's like really just give me the bullet points, and then
Yeah.
being able to have a conversation about the bullet points. I think that's how I learned. I've learned so much just from like making connections with people over the last couple of years of owning my business, and the personal growth from those types of conversations too has been like outstanding, just because that's how it's like, oh, I talked to Sarah and she's experienced something similar and this is what she did to get through it, and you're like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. Like I think that stuff is way more interesting than reading a book for like 400
Yeah.
pages.
If you're
um
going to read the book, join a book club and be
yeah.
held accountable, and then do the questions at the end so you can glean other people's perspective and insights. Or here's a hot take, just watch the TED Talk about the book.
Yeah, there
you
you
know,
go. Yeah, find the
you
author's
know,
podcast.
yeah, exactly. Read articles. Fast Company is great. Inc. is great. Wall Street Journal, New York Times, all of
Mhm.
those. Set Google alerts for subject matter or locations that kind of interest you. There's very few ideas in the world that are original anymore. So you can
Mhm.
learn a lot from, what other people are doing in other places and countries and kind of adapt those concepts. And that's where I see people be the most successful in their businesses is just, adapting other concepts that they've learned from other places.
Mhm. No, that totally makes sense. Um, I'm so glad to talk to someone that also doesn't like to read those kinds of books. I feel so much better because everyone else does. I'm like, am I just like a bad person? I mean, not really, but you get what I'm saying. I'm like, should I be doing this? And I'm like, I just hate it so much. I'm like, there's other ways to get the information. So I
Yeah, I
love the
just hope.
Google alerts idea too. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
I don't retain that kind of information. And quite
Mm-mm.
frankly, most of my clients don't have the time. They don't have the time to set aside to do that because they're too
Yeah.
busy. So,
Unless it's the kind of way that they like to learn already. Like I feel like it's, yeah, like you said, there's other ways to learn the stuff. So very
books
cool.
on tape, whatever your
Yeah.
method is.
Yep. Yep. YouTube videos on autoplay. That's yep.
Yep.
Um, so tell us how we can best support you, spread the word about the WSBDC, etc. How do people find you?
Yeah, so I think, just reach out if you need help, refer other small businesses or people thinking of starting a business or somebody that's in a quandary and needs help. That's all I need. And you can you can find us at WSBDC.org, and that will connect you with the closest advisor to your location. So we're also a national organization. Each state, I know you have listeners in other states. Each organization each state has their own SBDC, and so we can help you connect there as well. We're also in Canada and Mexico.
Oh, very cool. I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, and I think isn't it like americassbdc.org is like the generic website, like the national? I feel
Yeah,
like it.
but if you just go to SBDC in Oregon or SBDC in Idaho, it'll connect you with the local. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Very cool. Well, I am super glad that you came to hang out with me. I'm very excited. This has taken forever to finally put together, but
I know. Well, thanks for your
yeah.
patience.
Oh no, it was mostly me. Let's be honest. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. I was very excited to have you on, and I feel like those were some good conversation and action items for people. So, yeah. Anything else before we wrap up that you can think of that I forgot about?
No, I just think, being an entrepreneur, it's a lonely place to be, and just realize that there's lots of resources and folks out there that can help you. So
Yeah.
don't go it alone.
Don't go it alone. So wise words from Sarah Truglio. Perfect. Well, have a good rest of your day, and I'm sure I will talk to you soon.